So I've got 40 minutes. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my time with Amanda. Amanda works with me in the office of the CTO at VMware, and she's going to share with you, along with myself, some of the future work that we're doing and some of the areas of investigation that we're making at VMware. What I want you to get out of this session is an understanding of what's going on at VMware in terms of strategy, a little bit of an update on what we recently announced at VMworld in both the US and in Barcelona, and a little bit of what we're looking at going forward and some of the interesting research projects that we have. Now, my job is to, well, sometimes it's Chief Talking Officer as well as Chief Technology Officer, but my job is to go around the world talking to customers, around Europe, Middle East, and Africa, talking to customers and partners. And in talking to customers and partners, most of them seem to want to talk about digital strategy, or digital transformation, sorry, or digital business. To be honest, if you're starting to talk about digital stuff now, in November 2016, you're a little bit late, okay? And the other important thing to understand is that not only are you late, you've misunderstood the problem. There is no digital and non-digital, okay? Things have just changed. There is no traditional business and new exciting digital business. There is no bimodal, don't believe what Gartner tell you, they're wrong. What you're looking at is all business is digital business. But what I want to explain to you is what I'm seeing companies do with regards to digital business and what that means to them, and how they're interpreting that in how they change what they do. And in turn, maybe help you guys understand where your roles and jobs will be in 5 years and 10 years' time. Because I'm sure right now, the job you're doing today is not the same job you were doing 5 years ago. It's definitely not the same job you were doing 10 years ago. So what will the job you'll be doing in 5 years and the job you'll be doing in 10 years be? How will your strategy for your career as well as for your company change in an all-digital world? Well, when I go around and talk to customers, I find that they're looking at 4 real areas. Most IT projects or IT initiatives today come into 4 areas. They are either creating exceptional experiences, which is mobilize everything, make everything a mobile app, or differentiating with data and applications, data mining, data lakes, modernizing applications, containers, cloud native, hoodies, etc. Responding instantly to opportunities, which is future-proofing the cloud. Too many people in the past have been locked in. Too many people have made decisions that were expensive in the future to change, and they don't want to do that again. And safeguarding brand and customer trust through rethinking security. Most big initiatives and projects in most companies fit into one or more of these categories. So what does digital mean in this context? What are all these people doing, and how do they do it right or how do they do it wrong? Well, let me tell you what I'm seeing in customers and in the market in general. The successful customers use one very simple phrase, which is how you change to embrace the digital world. And that one very simple phrase is to start with the user. This is where every IT project goes wrong. This is where every enterprise IT project goes wrong. Because what happens is, you don't start with the user. Think about the next project you do. The next project you do will be about rolling out some new application or updating the data center. And that's because we seem to think that IT is all about data centers, when in fact the only reason we're in IT is because of users. You're looking the wrong way in most companies. And too many people now seem to think they come to conferences and the conferences are all about the infrastructure. They're all about the computers. They're all about the applications. They're not about the user experience and what's going on for the user. And let me explain that to you really, really simply. How many, you will all at some point in this month have to fill in some form of expenses form, right? You go and fill in business expenses. Think, when you fill in that system, which now probably is electronic, is that system actually designed to make your job as a user easier? No. It's designed to make someone in accounts' job easier. Think about the HR system that you use to book your holiday. Is that designed to make your job easier? Or is that designed to make someone in HR's job easier? And so this actually is the problem with enterprise IT. Enterprise IT has spent the last 15 to 20 years aligning with the business. And the problem is now they're staring there going, but the digital world is too complicated for us. All these consumer companies are far more adventurous than us. No, the consumer companies focus on the users. If you think about focusing on the users, you think about focusing on the user need, then what you deliver will change. So the reason why we're seeing a change in application development, the reason why we're seeing cloud-native applications is not because of a change in infrastructure. It's because in a change in demand from the users of the type of applications that they want and the way they want to consume things and the speed they consume things at. Users wanted to be able to watch movies and TV series anywhere on any device. So someone like Netflix had to invent an entire new way of building applications to meet that need because all the existing mechanisms just wouldn't do that. They started with the user and then worked their way back. And so I think the challenge going forward for us at VMware and for you as our customers is we have to, going forward, help our customers, that's you, sell to your customers, which is your users or your business's customers. So our focus at VMware now in a sales perspective from 2017 onwards is the customer's customer. Because I'm very good at selling to you. We're all very good at selling to you. We talk about vSAN, we talk about vSphere, we talk about sexy, exciting technology. But actually what we're not good at is helping you sell to your customers. And every company that I talk to tells me that their users and their customers are going somewhere else because they're not getting what they want. So how do we help you deliver something that your customers will need? And therefore help your company win and succeed? How do we help you stop aligning IT with the business and instead start with the user? Well, it comes down to a very, very simple diagram. And this diagram is one I've been drawing now for 5, 6 years, I think, since before I started at VMware. And the diagram is this. This is the cycle of every IT project in the world. And I know because I spent a large portion of my life doing them. You do some analysis. You analyze a need in the business. You present and design an application. That application generates some data. That data then gets analyzed and you update the application. Think about it. The application could be Exchange, it could be SAP, it could be Windows desktops, it could be anything. Office. Now, the challenge here is that up until now, every enterprise goes around this cycle based on when vendors tell them to. We tell you when the next version of SAP is coming out, when the next version of Exchange is coming out. At the same time, you know that you go around this cycle once every 3 years, once every 5 years. It maybe takes you, how long? 12 months, 18 months, 2 years to go around this cycle because it's complicated IT. We invent things like ITIL and Six Sigma to make it slow and painful as possible to go round the cycle. And then we just get back on it again. But we don't know, like hamsters, that we're in this wheel. What's different about the Googles and the Facebooks and the Amazons of this world is that they know that this cycle exists. And they know that if they get round this cycle faster than anyone else, they win. It's simple. Think back to that expenses application or that HR application. We have an HR application at VMware. It's terrible. I have to book my holiday. So in my contract, it says I get 28 days holiday a year. Okay? Now, when I go to my HR system, it doesn't say that I have 28 holidays a year. It says it in half-hour increments. So there is some number that is 28 days times 7.5, which I don't even know in my head, right? And then but because I haven't worked all the year, all the numbers are not there yet because I don't have them yet. And it's all very, very complicated for me to be able to book a holiday. Also, I know I am going on holiday next August. The system will not let me put anything into the system yet because we're not in FY17 yet, so I can't actually put it in the system. I have to wait. So I went to HR and I said, look, I'm having trouble with the system. I don't understand where or how I do this. Can you explain it to me? And they said, did you not do the 45-minute online internal computer-based training course for the HR system? And my answer to them was, I'm sorry, I must have missed that. I was so busy doing the 45-minute online computer-based training courses for Amazon and Facebook and Google and all the other applications that I never had to do any training courses for at all. So why do I have to do one for you? User interfaces, user experience are like bad jokes. If you have to explain them, they're not very good. Okay? This is what we need to start thinking like. Because that analysis on that data is not one thing. Most people, if you ask them, what do you analyze? Oh, we look at the database, we see the performance of the application, we see how it's running, we work out how we run the application faster. No. The analysis is where do people click in the application? Where do they not click? Which bit do they use? Which bit don't they use? Which bit do they never like? Which bit do they like? That's how you win. So all the other technologies you've heard about this morning from Cormac and from Massimo, things like scale and big data and microservices and containers and design for failure, all of those buzzwords are all byproducts of Google, Facebook, Amazon, ourselves, and others going around this cycle fast as we can. So our job at VMware is to help you get around this cycle as fast as you can. And the way that we help you get around this cycle as fast as we can is the way that every other large internet company has done it. What they've done is they've made infrastructure get out of the way. Because it's typically infrastructure that slows you down in this cycle. It's infrastructure that makes you not be able to do this today. You have to wait till next week or next year. So let's talk about what's gone on in infrastructure recently. When I say recently, I'm talking the last 15 years. So I have to take you on a history lesson. We have to go back to 1987. And in 1987, we had a problem. The storage people amongst you will love this. We could not make one hard drive big enough or fast enough to meet the needs of the then new and exciting relational databases for the mini computers that we had. So we had to invent a way of making lots of little disks look like one big disk. And we called it RAID. Now the great thing about this is, and I've given this presentation many, many times, because it's quite a simple way of explaining it, this is a cloud service. Think about it, right? I come as an application and I consume a service. I get some storage, a LUN, whatever I consume it as. I don't see behind the curtain. I don't see behind the RAID controller. I don't come and say, I want to use this disk, the green 10,000 RPM one. I come and get some storage. And when you look at that and you take that through, it's also got some of those cool features in. It's elastic. I can add disks and I don't have to tell all the applications that I've added disks. It just happens. It's also designed for failure. How cool and trendy is that? Right? I can lose a disk and no one cares because it's expected. In fact, right now, probably there's somewhere, if I added up everyone in this room, there is a disk failing in an array that is owned or managed by one of you guys right now. Literally, now. There you go, done. Are you going to get a text message, an email? No, you're not, because it's kind of like, oh, okay, there's a hot standby. In fact, there's this and that, and we'll swap it next week when I go to the data center, right? Who gives? Yeah. Doesn't matter. It's normal. So all we're doing in the industry, and what we've set ourselves as a challenge at the Office of the CTO at VMware many years ago, was a very, very simple version of this picture. What I want you to do is, in your mind's eye, and I'll help you by doing it for real, and as you may have guessed by now, I do my own slides. I don't get marketing people to do the pictures. You swap the disks for data centers, and you swap the RAID controller for an operating system for data centers, or as we now call it in marketing land, the software-defined data center. Or actually, software-driven data center was what Raghu first ever said, believe it or not. The software-defined bit came later. So now the vision was, how do I build it such that everything I need to do for those applications is done in software? So that what I can do is I can lose a data center, and it's the same as losing a disk. Now, right now, I bet money, lots of money, that if one of your data centers went down, you definitely would not stay in this room, right? My goal is that when one of these data centers goes down, you do stay in this room, because I'm more interesting than a data center, hopefully. So how do you do this? Well, to do this, you need to make sure that workloads can freely move between data centers. So to do that, first of all, you need a way for workloads to move between physical hosts. Virtualization and vMotion. Done, right? Well, no. Because when you want to vMotion from one data center to another, what's the biggest problem? Network. The network guys are like, are you kidding me? You want to do what? It doesn't have an IP address that just doesn't. So what we do is we overlay, virtualize, make the network guys unimportant. We didn't do NSX and virtualized networking just to upset Cisco. That was fun, but the reason was we needed a piece to put into the operating system. We're building an operating system for data centers. Think about that, right? We're not joining bits up, we're starting from the top down, operating system for data centers. So now I've got the ability with the networking, virtualized networking, I can move these machines between data centers. Their IP address stays the same, their security follows them, everything just works. But what about storage? I've moved the SQL server, but the database is still in my old data center. So now I need a distributed file system. Anyone got any guesses as to what distributed file system we're building? Maybe? It might have been mentioned possibly once or twice by people this morning. vSAN. So we're adding this all up together to say, okay, fine, how do we then build for you this system that allows you to have applications freely moving around between data centers? That's what we've been building. That's the software-defined data center. It's not marketing. It's a real plan for a real project. That's the strategy. Now, that's not the end of the story. And in recent times, we've revealed the next steps in the story. The next step is to understand that this operating system isn't always going to support just VMs. There's going to be new types of application that need to be supported on top of there too, like containers. And so with things like vSphere integrated containers, you get the ability for Docker to run just as happily on this operating system as SQL Server and DOS 6.22. Yeah, okay, fine, you're a VM admin, you want to come and run VMs, fine, go for it. Oh, you're a developer, fine, here's a Docker API. Oh, you want to talk OpenStack? Here's OpenStack. It's just another API, it's another workload that goes on top of that, and trust me, we have plans, and I'll talk to you in a minute, about other workloads that will sit on this operating system for data centers. Now, the exciting piece is, and this is the real big step, is that now is the time when we get to do the big reveal, which we did earlier, which is now we need to swap the pictures of data centers for pictures of clouds. And that's Crosscloud. That was always the idea, was an operating system for clouds. Something that I can put in multiple different clouds that means you can freely move workloads around between clouds. But here's the kicker. You don't move them. The operating system does. Just like the RAID controller decides which disk stuff goes on based on the policy that you put in place as to which disk it ends up on. In this world, you will put an application on top of that, a workload, and you will say, here's the policy for that application, that workload. It has to stay within Europe. And it has to have a redundancy of 3 or more. And the operating system works that out for you. That's what we're working on now. That is what you'll hear us refer to as Crosscloud. So how does that picture build up in real life? So with some better diagrams that someone else did for VMworld, I can now show you what happens in real life. In real life, what you have is you have your on-premises SDDC, the full stack of vSphere with NSX and vSAN and the management tool set on top of that, but goes up to and stops at vCenter. Okay, so I'm not talking vRealize here, goes up to and stops at vCenter. But you don't only run that on-premises, because also we have a whole bunch of other places that run it too. We run it ourselves, both in our own vCloud Air data centers, and we have thousands of partners worldwide that run vCloud Air and the vCloud Air network. At the same time, we have the IBM cloud, where IBM, in what they're now calling the Bluemix cloud, which was called SoftLayer, they're also running our software, so you can freely move around. What did we announce recently? We're also doing this with Amazon. Amazon we are standing up bare metal services. We are standing up a full service on top of that, so you can run VMware native SDDC in Amazon. You can come there, and we're running vSAN. We're running NSX. We're running vSphere. Nothing has to change. You can freely move your workloads in and out of Amazon, but equally, you can freely move them in and out of any vCloud Air network, etc. And that's all done with what we're calling VMware Cloud Foundation. So what is VMware Cloud Foundation? Is it marketing? No. There's some product associated with this. Cloud Foundation is where what we're doing is we're putting together into a managed package, and you'll see it down here, vSphere, SDDC Manager, NSX, and vSAN. SDDC Manager is the key here. SDDC Manager is the glue that auto-deploys all of these and auto-configures all of these. And you can run Cloud Foundation on-premises. You can buy Cloud Foundation pre-configured in a rack from VCE. You can build your own based on an HCL. VMware Cloud Foundation is running in vCloud Air. It's what we're going to be standing up in Amazon. So I'll give you a really cool example of what we can do now. The demo that we did at VMworld, if you look at the day one keynote from EMEA, from Europe, towards the end of that, Guido does a demonstration. What he demos is in Amazon, through our interface, he goes and provisions additional brand new physical hosts. Automatically, we deploy the SDDC onto those physical hosts for you. Once that's deployed, DRS then automatically balances the workloads out across that new infrastructure without you having to do anything. How cool is that? I need new physical hosts, just make it happen. Click, click, we come back to it's done. We've moved all your VMs around, we've rebalanced, it all works. So when you take Cloud Foundation as one option, we realize that people are also going to run things in other clouds. Amazon, Microsoft, Google, and IBM native clouds. So what do you do there? Well, they're not running Cloud Foundation, so they're not running vSphere. So there's a slightly different management prospect. And that's where Crosscloud comes in. What we will be launching next year, towards the later part of next year, is Crosscloud Services. Crosscloud Services is software as a service. Crosscloud Services spans across both on-premises, our vSphere clouds, and Amazon and others, and gives you things such as management and automation. It gives you networking and security, and it gives you data and governance. What we're going to do is give you that portal that shows you it's more expensive to run it in Amazon than it is to run it in Azure. It'll auto-discover your applications in Amazon and enable you to pick bits of them and move them somewhere else. It truly is revolutionary what we're building in Crosscloud, and is worth investigating and spending more time having a look at. Again, there's lots of demos and online sessions on Crosscloud, free now and available on the web from what we've done at VMworld in Europe recently. Cross-cloud architecture and the cross-cloud services are going to be a key piece going forward. When I talk to CIOs and show them this slide, they want every single piece of it and they want it now. So, what about end-user computing? Because no one ever mentions end-user computing. Well, end-user computing comes back to what I said at the start. Our end-user computing is focused on the user. It's focused on how do we deliver applications and data securely to anyone on any device. We don't even say any device anymore because that's just implied. What you're looking at here is we want consumer simple, enterprise secure. So all the work that we're doing around AirWatch, all the work we're doing around Horizon, around identity management, all the other products in that group, are around how do we make it really easy for consumers to consume applications. Because the focus is how do we deliver applications and data to users, because that's what you're in IT for. How do we give them an amazing experience? How do we make it that one day someone is walking down the corridor in your company, showing their colleague the cool new corporate app they've got on their phone? When did that last happen at your company? And I can honestly tell you that happens quite a lot at VMware. There's a whole bunch of cool new apps coming out internally at VMware for people search, for sales and other things, where people are actually actively showing them to each other. It's kind of cool. So, the vision stacks up and looks like this. At the bottom, we have this AnyCloud vision, where you have VMware Cloud Foundation, that base up to vCenter that stretches across multiple different providers, including IBM and Amazon. Then you have the vRealize Cloud Management, which allows you to provision off-premises from on-premises. And then cross-cloud services, which is coming, that spans across all of those. At the same time, we're helping you both build and deliver any application, be that on-premise traditional apps, be that new cloud-native apps, or even integrating SaaS apps into what you're delivering to any device. And any device really is any device. I don't know if you know, but every Coke machine in the world is managed by VMware. There's a large number of cars, literally I've seen some outside that I know and I can't tell people are managed by VMware. There's some phenomenal stuff already being managed by VMware. So what next for us? Well, as a taster, before I get into Amanda, I want to give you an idea of some of the things that are going on in my head, some of the initiatives we're driving, very quickly. One of the things is AI. I'm doing a lot of research and work on AI right now. And what we're doing is because we're aiming towards what I call intelligent invisible infrastructure. I shouldn't have to go and provision additional physical hardware and span across it. The infrastructure should know. The infrastructure should know that the application needs more stuff. The infrastructure should know that it's raining, therefore people will buy more umbrellas, therefore my website that sells umbrellas needs more capacity, and it just happens. People should know there's been an earthquake, therefore I need to dynamically move the workloads because there has been an earthquake from one data center to another. How do we start applying AI to how we manage data centers? Because when these things start getting as big as they are already, no human can comprehend or make decisions fast enough to keep up with what's needed. So AI is a key area of research for us. IoT, a lot of work going on in Internet of Things and what we're doing there. Coke machines and others is just a hint. Serverless, you hear a lot of people talk about serverless. It's a billing engine for PaaS, is the simple way to look at it, but it's on our radar. How do we do that? Obviously, Cloud Foundry is a big play there. And lastly, this is the one to Google, unikernels. Unikernels for me are what come after containers. If that's not PaaS, but it is PaaS, it's also unikernels. There's a whole bunch of stuff in there. In fact, unikernels crosses over into IoT, and I'm happy to have a conversation with you later about what that is, but you want to know what we're looking at? That's one of the things. And with that, it gives me great pleasure to introduce to stage Amanda Blevins, who's our Chief Technologist in the Office of the CTO, to share with you a little bit more about what's going on inside the Office of the CTO and how and what an Office of the CTO actually does, as opposed to just chief talking officers. Thank you, Amanda. Cheers.
Thanks, Joe. All right, so what do we do? Well, I'm American, so first I apologize for our president-elect and the next 4 years. I'm not sure what's happening. I'm glad I'm not there. All right, so since Joe left me -10 minutes, I'll do my best to get through some of this. So, you know, the marketing slide, I made the rest of them or asked somebody else to for their group. But the marketing slide is that we want you guys to be successful. So how do we do that? You know, we want to make sure that we evangelize or we talk, but also we want to make sure that we listen, because that's more important. If we just talk all the time, we can't hear what's important to you. And of course, we invent and enable. We help all of our business units do the right thing for you and for VMware. So what does this look like? What's our structure? We have our Chief Technology Officer, Ray O'Farrell. You've probably seen him at VMworlds or certain recordings or meetings. And we have various groups that do things. So we Office of the CTO Global, we have representation around the world, whether that's local or whether it means getting on a plane. We have the research office. A lot of things that we talked about today started in the research office, or maybe they're still there. Some of the things that Joe brought up around IoT is still there. We're working on that. Global services, that's really what we call our support organization. Whether it's engineering solutions for you from for our professional services team to use, or the folks that you call into when you have a problem, which of course never happened, so you guys have never called this, right? Never uploaded logs. We have open source. We have a chief open source officer, because in the past, VMware has not done that very well, and we apologize, and we're going to do that better. And then of course, we were acquired, or EMC was acquired by Dell, therefore we were acquired by Dell. And so we need to make sure that our solutions that we create also work well with their technologies. And last but not least, sustainability. So what other cool stuff do we do? How many of you like our APIs? Yeah, right, no one. Well, that's going to be better. So we have a big focus on APIs, vAPI. vSphere 6.5 will be the first to showcase that with some great REST APIs, but we're going to have this standard across all of our products to do so. We have an architecture review board to make sure that our products fit together. We're working a lot on interop, and we have to make sure that our solutions are built to be able to do that, not just glue them together or put a SKU around it and say that it's a suite, right? And there's something inside VMware called Take 2, Take 3. So at VMware, if you've been here for a period of time, you get to look around and say, what's interesting to me? So you can join another group for a couple weeks, for a few months, and be a part of that organization. So right now I have a gentleman doing a Take 3 with me, so he can learn about the Office of the CTO. All right, so go into some detail here. What's next? So when it comes to the global team, that's part of what I'm on. Of course, we get on airplanes. I happen to use United. There's not many United options over here, but that's what I use. But you'll see at the bottom I have a little picture for taking notes, because we need to hear. We need to bring that feedback to our teams. We have a group of people working on high-performance computing. Who uses HPC in their environment? Maybe some education. We got a couple folks in here. So if you haven't looked at vSphere and our other solutions for HPC, we've definitely done a lot of work on it. And every time we release a new version of vSphere, we take that into account for performance. Also, NFV, Network Function Virtualization. That's what the cell tower is about. So today, when you make a phone call, you expect it to work, right? A lot of companies don't necessarily virtualize that today. So the improvements that we make inside vSphere, NSX, vSAN, et cetera, we don't just consider enterprise applications, we also consider services that everyone uses every day. Also, we have a team looking at SAP. I mean, pretty much everybody in this room probably would raise their hand if I said use SAP HANA, right? Like somebody would raise their hand. Somebody raise your hand, so I feel better about that. There we go. So Landscape Manager is basically a provisioning tool for SAP, and that's something that we've been working on integration for, not only with our automation suite, but to make sure that your lives are made easier. So we have a lot of innovation programs at VMware, and there's a lot of names up on this slide, but I'm going to talk about projects from the Accelerate and from the academic program. But we have some CTO ambassadors that are here today that are going to talk to you, and they are direct lines into the Office of the CTO. So like I said, we want to listen. We want to do things that are important. So if Joe or I or somebody else isn't around, please talk to them, because this is how we're going to improve our products. We let in interns. We have folks where bring great ideas, because they're the consumers. They're the new generation. They're the ones that have been using only apps. Like my 2-year-old niece can use an iPhone better than most adults, right? Like she knows how to get to YouTube and her games immediately and can't even form a sentence yet. Borathon, that's our internal hacking. How do we make our products work together in a different way? How do we break our products? How can we, do different things? And then also Flings. Who've been to our Flings website? Has anybody seen that? So Flings are basically developers look at our solutions and say, wow, this is missing. Our solution needs to do this. vRealize operations need to do this thing. Or when I manage my virtualized desktops, I should have this option. Or my app volumes, but it's not in there. So how can we get it out to you faster? Well, they create a Fling, and then that's approved by folks in the Office of the CTO and their business units and their product managers. And then we give it to you to see how it works, and then you can provide feedback. And if it's very successful, then you'll probably see it in one of the next product releases. So I want to jump into what the research group is doing, because they're the ones that either bring in these interns or bring in these new developers or bring in the folks that have these new ideas and look at them to see if it's viable for us to pursue them or to see what we can do for you. So I have a lot of pictures at the bottom. I'll go across some of them. So NVMe, NVMe, Duncan talked about a little bit about how the cost is coming down, how the storage performance is way better. I think he said 1 million IOPS or something crazy. But that's just one side of it. How do we write applications differently? So how do we write VMware applications differently? But also, how do we suggest our partners and our software providers write their applications differently? There needs to be something to happen to be able to utilize this platform in a great way. Joe brought up Internet of Things. I mean, I probably have like 8 Internet of Things in my house alone. and I'm sure a lot of you do too, but think of like a manufacturing facility where there are so many different values being collected, so many different ways to see if the processing line is successful. So that's millions and millions of objects and then millions and millions of data points of those objects. How do you get those across the internet to be analyzed? Well, it's pretty much impossible because we have the laws of physics. So at VMware, we're doing a couple things. We're creating an IoT Gateway. And that IoT Gateway gives companies the ability to provide all that data, those millions and millions of things of other millions of things, into this one collection point. And then we use our software that we have today and software that we'll have in the future to be able to analyze those Internet of Things. Cormac talked about Harbor, so I won't go into that. But one thing I did want to mention was Corfu. Corfu is the distributed logging system that we're building to be able to handle, internet-type logging. How do we handle the fact that we can't get data consistency across logs if we wait for that write to be approved, right? So how does that happen from one part of the globe to another? So not only are we providing this to the community in an open source fashion, we're also using it in our products. Today we use a combination of Cassandra and Zookeeper inside our NSX management tools. But the problem with that is that they don't scale. So as you guys deploy more network virtualization, more virtualized security, as you expand to those clouds, we want to make sure that our solutions scale with you. So you can see that some of our projects are just discovering. Some of our projects are making their way into products. And some of our Octo projects have become products, like vSphere integrated containers. That's where it started. So I know you all are hungry. I'm hungry too. I will get through this quickly, just a couple more slides. These dots represent where our engineers are. So know that we're not just a US-based company, even though sometimes we act like it. So I apologize. Let me know about your localization issues. And the global services, the thing I want to point out here is the inner circle. If you've not signed up for the inner circle, I suggest it doesn't cost you anything. But this is run by our customer advocacy group where you can provide direct feedback to us about our products. So if one of us aren't around or you think of something at 2 in the morning, you can log onto this site and provide this feedback. We'll ask, for a quick poll, maybe a couple answers as well for, the burning topic of the week. And then we heart open source. So our chief open source officer has a few directives. In the end goal, of course, we want to be a contributing part of the community. We want that altruism, right? Today, VMware takes down the open source and uses it in our products, but we're not very good at giving it back. You saw a lot of GitHub references this morning, so that's definitely getting better. And then sustainability, you guys in Europe do this way better than the US, so I don't need to explain it to you.